What is going on, everybody? You're very welcome back to Leeds Bros for the BroCast. It's a pleasure to say we're joined by the brother Dylan, as always. And for the very first time from the Orta Know Better Podcast, we are joined by Smarty. Smarty, how are we doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you guys?
Yeah, all good, mate. Thanks very much for joining us. I had the pleasure of being on your channel on Sunday. I was late, but I did.
Pleasure
very
or
much
displeasure? That's probably it's probably up for debate, that, if I'm honest.
I did enjoy it very much. But thanks very much for giving up your time and joining us tonight. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on, I must say.
Yeah, pleasure, mate.
And Dillo, how are you, mate?
All good there, all good. I'm delighted to see Smarty in the building. Just looking forward to Saturday, lads, to be honest with you.
Are you only awake, like?
Smarty, I'm actually blushing here, I'm not going to lie.
My head can't get much bigger, mate. I know you're trying.
Dylan's fanboying over here. He's delighted to have Smarty on.
Yeah. Absolutely fanboying, yeah. No, yeah, I'm actually just looking forward to Saturday. We can be honest with you. It's just a week, you know, with the championship we had midweek games. Just with the Premier League, obviously I'm not going to complain too much, but I mean, you're waiting every Saturday for a match to kick off, you know. So yeah, all good though, other than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll dive straight into a Smarty and we'll come across you. Obviously, 6 games into the Premier League season. 2 draws, 2 wins, 2 defeats. Not a bad start to the season, I suppose. If you had said that was at the start, you know, we'd be where we are, 4 points above the relegation zone. After 6 games, we probably would have snapped your hand off. But what do you think of the start of the season so far? Could have been more, or are we just about where we should be?
I think, yeah, with hindsight, we could probably be a little bit higher up the table. You know, obviously a couple of nasty last-minute goals that we conceded against Fulham and, of course, Bournemouth as well. So, yeah, we should be on the outskirts of, in the midst of the European places, lads. But, yeah, I think we're doing okay. You know, after the first kind of couple of games, Everton, Arsenal and then Newcastle. For me, you've seen 3 completely different setups, 3 completely different teams. And I think, obviously, going forward, as we've seen against Wolves, we've seen against Fulham, Bournemouth, the more defensive side that we seem to be employing at the minute is probably the team and the side and the style of play that we're going to be using going forward for the rest of the season. Very championshipy Leeds against Everton. Plenty of outballs, plenty of attacking football. Then obviously, you know, in isolation, the Arsenal wasn't our. We were on our game, I don't think, and I think we were a bit naive the way we were set up. But obviously, recovered against Newcastle, which was a very positive, very very positive result for us. Kind of stop the rot sort of thing. Not that you can really say that after 3 games, I suppose, but after getting your arse handed to you 5-0 by Arsenal, you needed to kind of improve on that. And initially we did. The way that we set up against Newcastle, more defensively, but a lot more astute. And, you know, using Longstaff in that game was an absolute masterstroke, and he's undroppable now. He's been such a stalemate for us in the team going forward. And they all say that, you know, to stay in the Premier League, you need to be good. You need that good foundation. You need to be good defensively. And I think it's been a complete contrast to when we were in the Premier League last time. You know, we looked so much stronger, so much better defensively, and we can only get better, really. And I think, you know, going off week by week, we do look a much better team.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly summed up, Smarty, and I think I'm on the exact same side of it as you. There's always a part of me that could have been a little bit better when you look at the Newcastle game. As you said, it was massively important, I think, to bounce back after the Arsenal game, after the spanking, and not let a rot set in. And I thought it was a very, very good performance at Newcastle. And you mentioned him there, Sean Longstaff. He was absolutely fantastic in that game, and kind of came away from the game at Ellen Road going, you know, that's a good point, but could have possibly won it if we had a little bit more firepower. Then you look at the Fulham game, a last-minute conceded goal through an own goal from Gabby Goodmunson. There again at the weekend at Bournemouth, could have been another 3 points. So when you look at it overall, it depends on what side of the glass you're on. We could really have possibly another 6-7 points, you know, thereabouts. But that's just the Premier League, isn't it? Sometimes it goes for you, sometimes it goes against you.
It's to find margins in those small details. You know, we said it again on our show on Sunday. You know, and this is what Premier League football brings you. You know, it's a lot less forgiving. Is the Premier League? You know, the quality of football, the pace of the football is so much higher. And like you say, you only need to just lose that certain amount of concentration just for 1 minute, and you can be punished for it, as we've seen in the last 2 games. But you know, we've also said, would you, if we'd have drawn, say, for example, against Arsenal, and we'd have drawn a few more games afterwards, you don't really learn a lot when you're drawing games or when you're looking okay. Having your arse handed to you by one of the best teams in the league, you're going to learn lessons from that, and you only learn your lessons when you're not on your game or when you've been put to the sword by a much better team. You've been humbled, and that's when you learn. And Farke did learn from the from the Arsenal result. Improved against Newcastle, and it's just been a steady improvement, in my opinion, obviously. And I know obviously you guys share that opinion as well, but it's just been a steady improvement since.
That's what I think so as well, Dylan, and we'll pass it over to you, Dylan. I think after the Arsenal game was a real eye-opener, and I think Smarty's right in what he said, like that Everton game was a very championship style Leeds United. I think we hadn't adjusted to the Premier League yet, and I think that Arsenal game was probably a little bit of a blessing. And I know it's mad saying that after getting slapped up 5-0, and it wasn't nice, but I think there's a lot of good things that have came out of that. Moss Smarty mentioned there, you learn more from your defeats than what you do your victories or your draws, and it has been a steady improvement, Dylan, hasn't it, since Arsenal?
Just going back to Everton, Everton first game of the season, sorry. We've said it last year as well, me and you, Darren, when we were in the Championship. When you look at games like that, it's kind of an open field. The guns are out, and it's a free for all. There's not much to play for in the sense of tactics or anything on the line. So I think Everton, just going back to that game, it was based on we just got a penalty and we won the game from the penalty, and that's the end of it. When you fast forward then to Arsenal, I think we went in with the mindset of, let's just see how this goes. I don't think there was much of a plan in place. And then I've said it throughout the whole season of last season, where is plan B? But I agree with what Smarty said, and I agree with what you said as well. We well deserved it to lose 5-0. We simply weren't good enough. But then at the same time, maybe it did put the shakes up Farke a little bit to say, I need to improve, I need to be better, and as well as the lads, and even across the board as well. But as each game has gone on, me personally as a fan watching it and seeing them improvements each week constantly is what you want to see as a fan. Just the little things, and I hate having to repeat myself and saying it, but this is simply what it is. It's about the competition. It's about that midfield there and now. Obviously, we're going to get into it with the boys, but that's what I want to see. You don't want to see the same player starting. Obviously, you do. You never change a winning side. I get that to a certain degree. But the improvements have been so massive, and I think we're just taking all that for granted at the minute.
Yeah.
And, going back to what you said when we were doing our predictions for the Bournemouth game, before I even gave him prediction, I said, lads, I'll take a draw straight away. Because it's them little 1%ers, of points through that will gather up towards the end of the season that might or potentially keep us up and safe in the Premier League. And I just have to give a praise to the lads. Every single player on the team. I know we have a few injuries there and a few tweaks, but even down to Daniel Farke, he's obviously revved up the boys in some sort of way, the manner that they're going out in. And they're enjoying the football and they're battling. So, from a fan's perspective, for me anyway, I'm completely enjoying it. I have nothing to complain about as the football side of it. Obviously, there's improvements. There's always going to need room for improvements. But I think, why wouldn't we be happy if you had said to me, towards the tail end of last season, if we had these much points this early in the Premier League, I would have said, yeah, I'd be delighted with that.
Yeah, I think you're right. And Smarty, what Dylan said there as well is this is what we've waited for so long for in the Championship. This is all, the slog that we went through last season and the season before, 46 Championship seasons to get here to kind of enjoy it. And it's games like Saturday. I know, like the likes of Bournemouth, it's no disrespect to them. They are kind of, the smaller games in the Premier League for us, but it is the likes against them, Arsenal's, Spurs coming to Ellen Road on the weekend. These are the games that, you kind of have to enjoy when you're here, because this is what we've all wanted. And yeah, I agree. I think Daniel Farke, he's shown a good bit of flexibility since the Arsenal game, something that I didn't think he had because he was very structured in his first 2 years with Leeds United, and we've seen him under Norwich. He had a way of playing, and a little bit like Bielsa, rarely deviated from that. And I think we've seen since that Arsenal game, especially over the last three, we've really mixed it up, lads. We've played all different styles of football, haven't we? Which is good to see. And you seen against Bournemouth the first 20 minutes, we kind of sat in, we were compact, we didn't kind of let them, play through us. And I kind of said it before the Bournemouth game, just don't open the floodgates early, be nice and solid. They get an early goal, I think that could be detrimental for us. So, He definitely is. He's shown a little bit of flexibility, which I think we all said that Farke needed. So it's good to see that he's learning as well, and obviously knows what's expected from his team and the fan base going forward as well. But Dylan, you kind of touched on it there a little bit about obviously using the whole squad at the minute. So obviously we got a bit of news during the week about Dan James. It was dropped on Wacko. Some absolute head case on Wacko wanted to scare the living daylights out of the whole fan base and tell us that Dan James had an ACL injury, and then one particular account on Twitter wanted to back it up as well. And it was a bit of a meltdown, but obviously it came out it's an ankle injury. We don't know how bad it is until we know from Daniel Farke's press conference tomorrow. But it kind of got me thinking and looking at the squad depth, Smarty. And I don't know about you, and if you've kind of thought about this much, is there a little bit of a worry there with Leeds squad depth as a whole at the moment? It seems to be fine. We have our good months in there. We have our Okafor there. We have our Calvert-Lewin there. But looking at it, if we were 1 or 2 injuries away, like we said, if good months and gets injured, if Okafor gets injured, Calvert-Lewin has been fantastic the last 2 games. Is the squad depth a bit of a concern for Leeds United going forward?
I think in specific areas, it's no secret that we were trying to sign a right winger right at the depths of the transfer window. Harry Wilson would have been a great addition. Obviously he was one of the last sort of people that we spoke to try and get into the transfer window, but we can't obviously take that into consideration, etc. We are light at right wing. It is what it is. That's why we're seeing Brendan Aronson out there. Whatever people's opinions are of Brendan Aronson, he will do a job. He's not obviously as attacking as Dan James and others, obviously, but he will do a job. But yeah, the news about Dan James didn't. It really, I was thinking, oh God, because like when you're against Bournemouth, we were missing that kind of outlet. Aronson will do the running, he will do the tackling, he will do whatever. But outlets, you Dan James, that's the guy that you want out there that's going to bomb forward. Granted, it's a different style of play, and obviously Bogle's being held back a little bit as well. You don't see him charging up as much. You can see it's slightly hesitant. And that, for me, I think we did actually speak about this on Sunday, didn't we? There's a slight hesitation, and we put it down to just obviously that, being tactical or whatever. But yeah, there is a worry, I suppose, like there is with every Leeds team. It's not the first time we've been worried about squad depth, etc. I think we are relatively well covered defensively and in the centre, but on the wings, it is a slight concern. However, we don't seem to be utilising the wings as much as we have done in previous seasons either. So it's one of those sort of things that we're going to have to adapt. And I know that people are obviously positive about potentially signing people in the next transfer window, but there's a chance that we might look to get a right winger or even a number 9 or something like that. You never know. Things can change.
Even potentially jumping into the free market, even or possibly even a loan. I just think going back to the window towards the tail end, and I know everyone has their different opinions, and how much players that we did get in, and towards the end, we were waiting for Harry Wilson. We were taking scraps more or less. No disrespect to Harry Wilson, but I mean, it was kind of panic boy at the last minute. And going back to even the game against the last game of the season, when we were all kind of saying, right, that's the hard work done, but now the hard work starts again, moving forward into the transfer window to get things done. And fair enough, we started off so well from the back, moving up the pitch, and I just feel like they relied on too much from the likes of, say, Willie Gnonto, Dan James, and then, so late for Ramazani leaving, so late for Matteo Joseph leaving. And it just seemed that it was kind of like, why did he leave it so late? Why wasn't this kind of secure and hold it down at an earlier stage? But I actually agree with you there, Smarty. The wings, they do concern me to a certain degree, but I think we'll be all right. Even with, as you said there, Brendan Aronson, and I'll put my hands up, I have been giving him a lot of stick lately, but he's definitely improved for me anyway. And I said it to Darren, and I said it to everyone that watches Leeds Bros. I don't see where he fits into this team. I don't know what position he is, and I'm really liking him out on the right wing. And I know he doesn't give you that, as you said, the bombing up the field, what Dan James or Gnonto gives you, but he's giving you that kind of breaking up the play, slowing it down, and then just putting them under pressure when it needs to happen. So yeah, I genuinely think when it comes to the squad depth, especially for the wings, we just have to more or less, and it's horrible to say, get on with it, or wait till the window.
We don't seem to be playing as wide, lads. That's what I noticed, especially since the Arsenal game. We seem to be nearly hugging the touchline, and I don't think that's Aronson's game. I think he gets a little bit kind of lost out there, and I think Carl mentioned it on the pod on Saturday with you, Smarty. He was saying as well that we want to see Aronson get the ball and kind of go at his man a little bit more, because he can kind of draw fouls and that, but he seems to be playing, look, it's not Jesse Marsh, it's not right down the centre, but he definitely seems to be tucking in, and Okafor does seem to be tucking in as well, and if you're doing that, and we mentioned Bogle there as well, well, then you need Bogle to be getting forward a bit, Smarty, don't you? Like, if they're tucking in and you're leaving a right wing wide open, then it's not really working, and you could see that change then in the second half as well. Aronson then was still coming inside, and we could see Bogle get forward a little bit more. But this is different to these players as well, isn't it? Because look, we obviously know it was the 4-2-3-1 last season. Aronson was playing a lot centrally. He's out on the right wing now, and it's a totally different role what's being asked of him this time. It's not like it was where we were on the front foot in the Championship, where it was create. He's asked to go the other way now as well, because we know what the quality players, and I think he's probably the best in this squad at doing that, tracking back and closing down and following his man. He's been exceptional at it. There's no denying that. But I agree with both of you. It's gone forward. It's the creative side of it that worries me a little bit. And there is games that you're going to want your Brendan Aronson in there, absolutely. But then there's also games like that at the weekend, or you're away at Wolves or even Fulham, when there's a chance to go win the game, and it would just be nice to bring a creative player off the bench. And look, it's just unfortunate at the minute, the situation with Dan James, he just doesn't seem to have any luck whatsoever. Obviously with the abdominal injury, and obviously now the ankle injury, we'll find out more about it tomorrow. Willie Nonto the same as well with the calf injury. So we've been a little bit unlucky as well, Smarty, haven't we, with the injuries, especially like we're short in them positions anyway, and of course being Leeds United, of course we get the injuries in them positions as well.
Yeah, it's one of them things, but there's a saying, and I won't say it on here because obviously this is your podcast, but you can only do a certain thing with a certain thing that you've got, and it is what it is. But it's the situation that we found ourselves in. But yet still, we are quite effective, and I think we are more effective than we have say in the Bournemouth and the Fulham games that going forward than we were against Newcastle, against Arsenal, etc. Like you said, Aronson likes to tuck in and Okafor likes to tuck in, but with that, you're getting your Bogles and your Goodmansons around the outside. Now, when you obviously bring Calvert-Lewin into that conversation, if you were giving me the option of whether I stick a ball to his feet or I stick a ball to his head, if you've got Goodmanson and Bogle crossing balls in, the one person I want on the end of those balls is Dominic Calvert-Lewin. So you can see, with obviously the wingers tucking in a bit more and looking for the overlaps from those right backs, left backs, etc. Try and whip a ball in. That's how we've been most effective. And obviously the fact that we're utilising free kicks, etc. and other set pieces, which again we're much more effective with this season. We've signed a lot of big lads. There's no getting away with it. There's a specific demographic that we've gone after this year in the transfer window. They're all going to be over 6 foot. They've all got to be quite beefy blokes, and it's going to be really good for us to use that. And again, we're scoring from set pieces, which really we've never really done before. Yeah,
it's been a long time.
From a defensive point as well, it's also positive. Now maybe not bringing some of these, the probably the best header or one of the best headers in the league off, as the opposition's got a free kick outside your box in the dying embers of the game. Might not be one of the best decisions you'll ever make in your life, but nevertheless, it's an effective force.
Yeah, Dylan, what about you with that?
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I think when it comes to set pieces, I've been loving it. And to be fair, like on a funny note, the missus is tired of hearing me sing "We've scored from a corner" because I don't even realise I'm doing it half of the time. I'd be going to make a brew or or just getting a drink and I'd be singing it. But it's simply down to obviously the set piece coach as well. It's just them little 1%, them little improvements can go a long way. And not only that, even I just want to speak about one man, is Joe Rodon. I just think he's been an absolute immense warrior on the pitch. He doesn't get the credit he deserves.
Great.
I seen the Wales manager speaking about him the other day. He came up on X, and I was delighted to hear that because he just doesn't get the praise that he deserves defensively. And then now, scoring that goal, it just gives him that kind of motivation and confidence. And not that he needs it, because I just think he's been phenomenal. But
we needed that out of him more, though, Smarty and Dylan, though, didn't we? From set pieces, I think he's very good in the air defensively, though. His band was always frustrating last season when we were getting corners, and even the corners into the box were dreadful at times last season. But when it did go near Rodon's head, it was going the other way. He'd be trying to head it this way, and it was going
absolute 50p head.
It was
that's
all
what
over the place. But Dylan, we wanted this, Smarty, and I'm sure you boys talked about it in your podcast as well. It was a big worry of mine coming into the Premier League of how frail we were at set pieces and how bad we were at taking them as well. And it's them 1%ers in the Premier League, Smarty, isn't it? That just times a set piece is going to win you the game in the Premier League. It's that much of a fine margin. So it's so good to see that we're starting to do that. We've seen Stack the previous week against Wolves scoring from a free kick. Leeds don't do that. A ball whipped into the box from Jaden Bogle, a loop and header. Leeds don't do that, and scoring from a corner. So it's nice to see that we're getting this different dynamic into our game.
And it's all about the different aspects in it, I suppose. We were so used to the champion football from the Championship. And I for one said, you guys, the people in our chats, etc., that used to join us, I said, you guys better get used to this or enjoy it whilst it's here. Because next season is a completely different game. We're going to be setting up completely differently. It's all about survival. And this season literally is just about survival and adapting to this higher league, the higher quality, the faster pace, etc., etc. It is taking a few of the team players to get used to it. Obviously, Calvert-Lewin's is a bit of a grizzled Premier League swine, isn't he? So he's used to the sort of quality that it brings. But some of the other players, Stack struggled in games. I think Tanaka, obviously, the obviously small parts that we've seen him, etc. He's looked slightly off it, but he needs more minutes. Pirro, again, all these sort of players that are coming in and out, they're going to really struggle to find form in this league. But we are headed in the right way. And again, if we can grab a goal from a set piece, then brilliant. And like I say, the main focus for me was to be solid at the back. And I think we can hopefully say, granted it's been 6 games, that we are much better defensively. I dare say even better defensively than when we were in the Championship as well. But then again, you've got a nice big fat banker 3. You've got your Ampadu, Longstaff, and Stack right in front of you. 2 other big lads in Stroke and Rodon. That's a really good defensive unit in it. So
I even think down to the goalkeeper as well with Darlow.
Exactly.
Highly with Darlow, lads. And look, I'm just gonna call it how it is. I just think whatever it was, 17 million for Perry, and he hasn't done anything wrong. He simply just got injured, as you said in the previous week, Darren. But I think he's been immense. I think he's grabbed the jersey by both hands and he's just held on to it. And look, don't get me wrong, if he was to be dropped, I'm not going to have a meltdown over it. But, he was brought in to do this, be second goalkeeper. And I just think he's been the best out of everything that we have at the minute. And, as you said, they're moving up the field. I think defensively we're quality. Very hard to break down at times, especially with Rodon and Stroke. And then obviously the conversations to be had with Borneo and Bial coming in, and why did we spend that money? Let's be honest with you, we can talk about the right wing position there. Maybe that was something that we probably would have potentially dipped into. Now I know, with that being said, you have Stroke that does have his old injury every season, but 2, trying to get into this team, and obviously Farke did speak about it last week in his press conference that he felt sorry for Borneo, because it's not that he hasn't done anything wrong. It's just simply the boys are just at it, and that's the sort of little things that just niggle me a little bit, because I'm kind of saying I understand that we need backup, but at the same time we need backup in other positions that seem to be kind of frailing at the minute. But defensively, unbelievable. And then obviously Darren, you're going to get into it, but the midfield itself, it's just a competition. I'm loving it at the minute. I know I keep saying it, and people probably keep going on about it again, but it's, as a fan,
I think that's the best part of it, though, lads, isn't it? That's probably the most I'm happy with in our squad at the minute. Like the back line, you can obviously talk a little bit if Goodmunson gets injured. You've Boyram then to come in there and cover. Other than that, we're more or less, covered right across the back line, the goalkeeper, and then that midfield. And I love that we have so much cover in there. Like that 3 of Stack, Ampadu, and Longstaff have been fantastic. And then you still have Tanaka to come in here, and then you've Gruev who was on the fringes there as well. Who, look, I don't think it's going to get much game time, but it really feels like a solid midfield that we have in there. And that's why we're speaking about it so much, Dylan. But like, who would have thought it? Like when we brought Longstaff in, like, I don't know about you, Smarty, but it was very much split down the fan base, wasn't it? Because I remember putting out a poll at the time about it.
I think so.
It was bang down the middle. Half were happy with the signing and half weren't happy with the signing. And it makes you scratch your head a little bit, because coming up from the Championship and you're signing, a fellow who's played 170 times for Newcastle, and we know how big Newcastle is and their stadium, again, one club city and that, and he's been there and he's done that, and he's shown that now at Leeds, hasn't he? And with Calvert-Lewin as well, like the Premier League experience was massive to get over the line.
And that's something you just can't buy, experience, you know. And again, I think, you know, I think in that in window we made, as far as our fans are concerned, probably 2 underwhelming signings. Dominic Calvert-Lewin's one of them, 100%, and maybe you could throw Longstaff in there.
Would agree,
Before this season, before the transfer window opened, I said we need to ideally get some more, maybe a couple of Premier League players with that experience, because beforehand we didn't really have anything or had anyone. I mean, beforehand, I mean obviously with the Bielsa promotion squad, they were all a group of lads that had come up from the Championship. We did really well in the first season, and we kind of fell off. You know, that experience is vital, and someone like Sean Longstaff is an absolute coup for us. And as it's turned out, he's been absolutely immense and one of our best players. And Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I was massively underwhelmed. People were calling him Bamford 2, etc. I still do have certain reservations over his finishing ability, etc. But
seen it weekend, didn't we?
Yeah. I mean, it's obvious, isn't it? I mean, the guy's. I think he's like ranked 3rd in the Premier League for shots on target, but he just doesn't seem to frigging. I mean, I think his XG is like 2. I saw a stat this afternoon, like he's third or something in the league so far. But yeah, but he does a job. The lad can stand up there, and some of the balls that are getting pinged to him were very one-dimensional.
How he controls them, yeah.
And he just brings them down and lay them off. And you're just thinking, do you know what? Absolutely fair play, because we've never had a player, or certainly not for a long time, have that ability to be able to pluck a ball out of the air and be effective and get it forward. His movement, he just looks really sharp. So I'm going to hold my hands up and say, hey, you know, I've been bowled over by him. I really like him, Calvert-Lewin. Yeah, we could have had an absolute.
But I think that's fair though, Smarty, though, isn't it? I think you're right to have your reservations about Calvert-Lewin, because the proof is in the pudding, isn't it? Really, and I was kind of the same as you. Like, this could go one way or another with Calvert-Lewin, and it still can. Look, it's been a good start to the season, and what we know is his injury record. But there's absolutely no denying it. If you keep him fit for, I think, even half of the games this season, I think he's a real handful. And I seen it live at the weekend again against Bournemouth. Like, he was fantastic. Some of the balls and the leap that he has on him is absolutely fantastic. And again, like, obviously the worry is there, you know, if we're going to play that way, if he does pick up a knock, which hopefully is only going to be for a game or two, and you've met your Pirro coming in, well, then that really changes our style then, lads, doesn't it? Because you're not going to be able to play that way, and we know Pirro isn't, you know, that physical. So then it'd be interesting to see again how Farke adapts to that way, if he does bring Pirro in, if he does bring Mech in. And it's a long season, and it is going to come to that at one stage or another.
Yeah, 100%.
Dillo, what do you think?
Look, with the striker position, you know, obviously you all know how I speak highly of Joel Pirro, but I think, as Smarty said there, you can't buy experience, and Calvert-Lewin simply has it. And he's just been, every time he's on the ball, you're looking for that type of, you know, diamond play, you know, that he just makes it look so easy, as taking the ball down or whatnot.
Just the experience, and it's little things, isn't it? Like, if
he's
not going to win the ball,
physique.
Smart. I don't know if you've noticed the lads, but there was times where he wasn't going to win the ball, and he's still giving them like a little nudge, a little subtle nudge. So he's not making it easy for him. Where we don't really see that from Pirro. If Pirro can't get to the ball, he's not really going to try and make it hard for his man. And that's what I love about it as well. He knows he's not going to get it, but still makes it hard for him.
He knows the dark arts. I mean, we talk, you know, freely about the dark arts and those teams that use them, etc. And they know how to play in this league.
Yeah.
Dominic Calvert-Lewin is one of those players. He's a striker that knows how to ruffle his opponents. He can get in amongst it. He don't mind. You know, a couple of times I saw him leaving a little bit on like Taylor Adams, for example. Yeah. You know, he don't mind throwing his weight around. He knows what he's doing. Whereas, you know, I mean, obviously you wanted to speak about the huddle that Longstaff had in the middle of the park, you know, against Bournemouth. These players are just players. They are world beaters. We're not playing against Brazil. It's Bournemouth at the end of the day. We don't have to give them that much respect. Stop respecting them. Get in amongst it and get stuck in. And we were very, very unfortunate that lapse of concentration right at the end of the Bournemouth game. But he's just Jammy. Thanks, Jammy. He's always got good things to say about me, Jammy. No one else does. But,
is that your burner account?
No, Jammy's one of Luke's fans. He likes Luke.
Oh,
he likes to go and watch Luke. Yeah, he's a nice guy. Jammy.
Yeah, I just think it's class. And obviously, what we're speaking about there, when you talk about Longstaff and Calvert-Lewin, it is the Premier League experience, and I think you can see it. It's absolutely massive. And you touched on it there, Smarty, with Longstaff. So it said that after Rodon scored his goal, when they were all in the huddle, Longstaff was saying to them, stop respecting these guys so much. They're just footballers. Get stuck into them. And I think that's fantastic. And that is the experience again coming to a fore. a man that's new into the dressing room, and it's easy to shy away, Smarty, isn't it? When you're going into, the unloan, you haven't really found your feet yet. You're only, 5-6 games into the season, and you're already, telling them what to do. And I love that. And we heard Farke speaking about it briefly ahead of Wolves. The same thing saying about Calvert-Lewin, that he's a big presence already in the dressing room. He's very vocal. Brilliant.
He's
That's
a leader,
exactly
and just like Longstaff, they're showing, they're bringing that sort of leadership quality to the fore. Beforehand, I mean, you can say what you want about your leadership group, your strike, your Meliers in there or whatever. But these guys, these Premier League players with experience, they're the guys that the others are going to turn to and say, right, as backs against the wall here, what do we do? And just getting them lads in, even though that Ampadu's a captain and 100% absolutely back him, Longstaff, getting the lads together, sitting, giving that little speech and, come on lads, let's, get stuck in. And we went and scored again. It was 2-1, a cracking goal by Longstaff, obviously. But that's what you need, and that's what you just can't.
It's just kind of revving up everyone, that kind of way. We're here to battle. And I don't want to sound like we're going to war here, but I mean, when you're on the pitch, and when the whistle goes, it's 90 minutes of, let's be honest, torture. They're running around. They don't stop to get a breath for a second or two. And you just need to keep that pace going. So when you have Longstaff coming in there, and, Darren, you've played for a good few years longer than me, but I've noticed it when I've been in cup finals or just even a normal game, you never know what it be. You always have someone, kind of revving you up, and you kind of look at him, who's this fella?
It's always the back,
you're in the back of your head, you're going, no, he's right. I'm with him behind that. So when you see it from that kind of side, and not saying he was being kind of big of himself, but them lads that were in the huddle, kind of saying, right, we're still kind of only getting to know you. I know we only played 6 times together, but they want to see that. This man knows what he's doing. He's played whatever 100 something games.
Especially because there's a lot of inexperience in this side as well. As when you look at Jayden Bogle played there before, we look at Goodmunson, coming into it. Rodon, Strauch has been here before, but Ampadu, there's questions over him. Brendan Aronson, the last time he was in the Premier League, not great. Okafor is new to the league as well. So there's a lot around this team that don't have Premier League experience. So that's when you rely heavily on these boys, isn't it? To kind of grab the dressing room by the throat and say, right, this is how we do it. So to hear Sean Longstaff doing that, I think is absolutely fantastic. And again, he's up there, and I didn't think he would be, but he's up there with one of the signings so far this summer. And again, for Spurs, I don't see how you take him out of the team. I know Tanaka's coming back, but Tanaka, exactly like Perry, he has a fight on his hands to get back into this team. And when he does get a chance, he's really going to have to perform Smarty, isn't he, if he's going to win his place back?
I'm a massive advocate for not changing a winning team or a drawing team. Yeah, we didn't win, but we certainly didn't lose. And for me, the lads that are starting over the last couple of games, it's as far as I'm concerned, it's their jersey to lose. Absolutely. I think we've said before, for me, the only person throughout the whole squad who, if they're coming back from injury and they're available, that walks back into that team is Ethan Ampadu.
Yeah, I agree.
For me.
We've seen that,
and that's that. I mean, he's just vital to how we play. He's the captain, he's the leader, and he's instrumental in most of our winning games and our performances. But Longstaff, you've got to appreciate that he's probably right up there as well. Tanaka doesn't get in that team for me over Longstaff at the minute, just because of how much we've depended on him over the last few weeks.
Absolutely. I agree. Touching on Ampadu there as well, as I wasn't going to speak about him much, but has he became a little bit of our shithouse now? Because it's something that I didn't really think that he has in him, but he really seems to. We've obviously seen the tackle on Dewsbury Hall, we've seen the tackle on Tyler Adams, but he's not doing it in a nasty sort of way, say. But he's doing it for the fans, and it really feels like he's really, really starting to buy into that Leeds way, Smarty. And I'm kind of getting this feel from kind of Ampadu that he's really the captain, and he's really grown into that captain role. He's really taking it serious now. And again, I think he's been fantastic, and he just seems to recover from his injury so quick. We've seen last year he came back 5 or 6 weeks early. Again, the same. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks early this time. But again, that shows the ultimate professional.
When you look over the good periods in history of Leeds United, there's always been one person that's always stood out, that's embraced the hard man sort of attitude. You look at your Billy Bremners, your David Batties. Ethan Ampadu fits that character. He does, absolutely. That guy that's leading from the front, don't take no for an answer, likes to leave it on people, get stuck in, etc., and just lead by example. And the crowd pick up on it. It was a steady sort of atmosphere until Tyler Adams decided to go in on Stack, and all of a sudden he's got Ethan Ampadu, grabbing hold of him and having a bit, and we feed off that. And we get a bit of an adrenaline buzz on it. and it just improves the atmosphere straight away. You know what it was like. Pontus Jansson were another one. As soon as he used to fly into tackles or last minute blocks and all that sort of stuff, and he's like, come on, you know. The crowd feeds off it, and that's what you want. You want that sort of character.
He knows
kind
that.
of strong man. Yeah, he does, and he's leaving.
He knows.
And there was a question mark over him, obviously, coming into the Premier League, because I remember just after we got promoted, people saying, "Oh, can Ampadu do it in the Premier League? Is he really going to be our captain going into the Premier League?" And this is why I was thinking about him again today. And again, the first 6 games he's been phenomenal. He has really taken that step up to the Premier League, which is fantastic to see.
Yeah, and he's a bloody good player as well, isn't he? Yeah, he's good. He's great. And
he can vary as well, and he can play them long balls. We've seen him being able to play them long balls. So I think at times this season, when we need to vary our game, when we need to keep it short, he's very good at doing that. And when we need to go a little bit longer in that switch of play, we've seen him doing that as well. So I agree with you, Smarty. I think if there's one person that probably gets into this team on merit, or straight away, it probably is Ethan Ampadu with being a captain, and I think he deserves to be. We'll look a little bit ahead then to Spurs on the weekend, lads. Obviously back at Ellen Road, and obviously we have that stat of not being beaten at Ellen Road for over a year now. The last time we were back was against Burnley. The manner Solomon's slip with seems like an absolute lifetime ago for us, but again, Dylan, this is one that we want to keep hold of in the Premier League. Like, how fantastic would it be? Very, very unlikely, but how fantastic would it be to go the season unbeaten at Ellen Road, and Spurs at the weekend is going to test that, isn't it?
It'd be deadly. I was just thinking how towards the end of the season, just the fans singing, we haven't been beaten at home, or some sort of song made up. But I take a draw. I've said it again, even with Bournemouth, it's about building character. It's about building motivation and confidence. And obviously the lads that are coming back from injury, if they can get a draw, look, a win would be unbelievable. But I'm going in with the mindset is, it's potentially we could lose this, and which is horrible to say, I know that, and I'll never bet against Leeds. But with the way that we've been playing lately, the way that we've been rounding up the troops and just kind of really going at it for 90 minutes. I know we switch off with certain tactics, etc. But I mean, if we can nullify them, and then it's Ellen Road, lads. It's just Ellen Road at home. It's a different atmosphere. It makes everyone feel so uneasy. You've heard past players, you even heard it in Calvert-Lewin's first interview. When he did play at Ellen Road, he was like, it's a hard place to come when you're not on, when you're on the opposition. But then, going back to what Ampadu said, what Smarty said about Ampadu, it's, even with him kind of revving everyone up, revving the fans up, you want to make them feel like no respect. You don't want to respect these teams. I know to a certain degree we're newly promoted, so I get that. We're Leeds United, we're dirty Leeds, we're that one. I want to be hated. I think we all want to be hated. And Leeds kind of give that vibe. We've seen it. Every team, every time something bad happens with us, we're the first ones to come out of our mouth because they just can't stop thinking about us. So I think going in on Saturday, we need to, one, not change the side. Hopefully there's no injuries, obviously with Dan James or Willie Nanto. And then, just move forward with the ball in a quick manner at the first few minutes of the game and try and get a goal as early as possible.
It's like you. Sorry. You obviously said, which were a bit cliche, that you don't want to appear like we're going into war and all that sort of stuff. But to a degree, we kind of are. This is about survival, and Ellen Road is our house. And if you want to come into our house, you're gonna have to frigging beat us. You know what I mean? And you're gonna have to bring the game and stuff like that. And as the fans always seem to respond better to these kind of fixtures as well. So we'll be up for it. The team will be up for it. You're going to have to come and put on a show. You're going to have to come and beat us properly. And we aren't going to lie down like we have done in previous seasons. This is a completely different team. We're much stronger. And I just, I'm pretty positive. I don't fear. There's not a team that I don't fear. Even Arsenal, that we got pumped 5-0 by them down at their place. I wouldn't fear Arsenal coming to our place. Ellen Road is completely different. It's hallowed turf. It's where we belong.
I agree, Smarty. I feel like some magic can happen at Ellen Road this season.
It could do. Absolutely. Yeah. I think, and like I say, as long as we can keep. I mean, I don't expect to go, the whole season unbeaten at Ellen Road, because if we did, that'd be just absolutely unreal. What a result and what a record that'd be for a promoted team to go unbeaten at home. I don't think it's probably ever happened ever. I'll have to check it. We'll have to get Stats Dalton to have a look at one of the stats boys. But it's. I said on our pod that I think it could be decided with a set piece or something, and hopefully, if it comes down to that, then it'll be us. But I
Joe
think we'll
rolled
be
on
hard
against
to
his
beat.
old team, two in a row.
Imagine,
Would be nice, wouldn't it?
imagine. Or maybe
Yeah,
an Archie Gray on
kind of.
goal.
Yeah, bro. I'll take that. Dylan was obviously saying there it's unlikely, but I've probably convinced myself after the last two games, I've convinced myself that Spurs are definitely there for the taking, and it would probably be the most Leeds United thing to go beat Spurs the weekend convincingly and then lose away at Turf Moor, and that's just the way Leeds United are. But no, I'm not. I look at you, Smarty. Look, I'm not afraid of anyone coming to Ellen Road. Look, I really think we've seen it so many times when Ellen Road has bounced, and especially when them big teams come to Ellen Road and they rock into town. Look, we don't make it easy for them. So, I'm with you on that one, Smarty. I think Ellen Road is, is a fortress. We've seen that over the last year. The fans are, I know it's cliche and everyone says it, they really are the 12th man. I watched a couple of Bournemouth streams and channels after the game, and nearly all of them said that Ellen Road really played a massive part in that game. And he said when Leeds actually went 1-0 down, really seemed to revitalise Ellen Road, and we've seen that at times, haven't we? It's when Leeds are on the back foot is when we really come together as well. So yeah, I'm expecting a really good game against Spurs the weekend. I'm hoping with them playing last night and a little bit of travelling might play into it a little bit, even though they did rest a couple of players. But they've got a lot of injuries as well. I think Solanke is out, Madison's out, Kulusevski's out as well. So there's a massive part of their team. So yeah, there's nothing where I sit back and go, the living daylights are scared them here. There's a possibility of 3 points on the weekend.
It's definitely a possibility of 3 points. I just feel like, at times when we do so well, we can't keep that kind of, keep it rolling over to the next one. But
that momentum, yeah.
Yeah, the momentum, yeah, exactly. And, Darren, you've said it yourself there, we'll probably go, and we probably will. We'll probably go and win 2-1 against Spurs and then just crumble at Turf Moor. And it's the most Leeds thing ever. But this is what I'm trying to say. But going back to the last times that we were in the Premier League, I don't know about you, but I got the impression that every time we came against the big six, and I'm using them air quotes because none of them are big in my eyes, if I'm completely honest with you, but every time that we did, we always seemed to put up a fight. We always seemed to rev up more, it might be a scrappy goal or, Leeds just looked at it and we didn't necessarily play so bad, but then when we did, and take this with a pinch of salt, come against the littler sides, and I'm not naming any teams because I don't want to disrespect anyone, but I mean,
Man United.
Yeah, exactly. we seem to, kind of bow down. So I previously played against, even the Man City game against Dallas, when Dallas scored the winning goal. That didn't surprise me, if that makes sense. It didn't show, like, I felt there was a goal coming. I felt like we were, but then we go down to, as you said, Burnley, Turf Moor, and then a completely different side come out, and it just wouldn't play the same way, or that kind of anger or whatever you want to say. So I just think going into Spurs, it's simply down to quick pace, fast football. Obviously, get the selection right, and then just do the defending and let it take its course, and don't be sitting in and letting them inviting them on.
I think we'll see a very similar sort of performance as we did against Newcastle. We'll probably soak up a lot of pressure, etc., and look to get that out ball to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. But obviously, just being a little bit, going over to Burnley or whatever, we've absolutely dominated Wolves. And I think, and we weren't necessarily really pushing that final third the whole game. We just did it with quality, and I think that similar sort of aspect of the game that we'll take to Burnley as well. But like you say, it would be the most Leeds thing ever to play really, really well against chuffing Spurs and then go and get rolled over at Burnley. But hopefully, we won't do, and we'll stay calm and we'll do a job.
Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty hopeful. I think, as what you said, Smarty, it was all about kind of how we bounce back after Arsenal, and what I've seen the response from this team and what I've seen the response from these players has really given me a lot of hope, especially the last 3 games. And I know, look, we haven't been on the right side of results, or probably got the results that we deserved, but I just think it's been there. It's more been the performance, and I think that's massive in this league going forward. And as we said, we just keep taking them off. Mr. Whitesnake said it there, one game at a time, and it's massive when you roll around, Dylan. It's all about being up for, because really we spent so many years in the Championship. These are the games you have to go up for, isn't it? Beating the likes it is.
Yeah, it's great, especially when for me anyway, I have a lot of sports fans that are mates of mine, same with Scummers, same with Liverpool, the whole lot of them. And I've said it before, I've always supported Leeds when they're in League One or the Championship. So for me to go down there and beat them, we're getting slated for years, it's nice. it's like rubbing salt into the wound. It's nice. It's nice to be on the other side of it for once. So, yeah.
Do you feel with the division as well, Smarty, that like I look at the Premier League and this might come back to bite me, but it doesn't seem that strong. And I know like we're only 6 games in, but you look at some of the teams kind of struggling, and it looks like everyone is beatable at the minute. We've seen Liverpool have a little bit of a wobble. City didn't get off to a good start. Man United, Chelsea, Arsenal have had their little bit. Also, they got it back on the road against Newcastle, but there's no real, it doesn't really kind of scare me, this division, as well, the last kind of couple of years gone by. So it really feels like, we could potentially, we can put a run together, finish in that top 10. What's your thinking, obviously, like the whole relegation thing, or how far can Leeds actually, finish up the table?
I mean, the world's your oyster. I mean, we've made a really positive start, and we should be much higher. We should at least be 3 points higher than where we should be. Obviously a couple of late, obviously losing at Fulham right at the very end, and obviously dropping 2 points against Bournemouth. We should be a lot higher. But again, like you say, there's certain teams in positions. Liverpool is a perfect example, that aren't specifically, well, their position isn't necessarily reflective of how well they've played this season. I think they've been quite fortunate, and they're not the only team that's been fortunate. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Anyone can beat anyone in this league. We're not seeing those sort of dominant performances from Man City, and Arsenal are doing all right, but that's Arsenal. Yeah. They'll never finish higher than second, will they? Let's be honest.
always the bridesmaid.
that's it. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, it's positive. You've got to be a little bit optimistic about this league. I mean, yeah, it's not champagne football. It is about survival, but we need to enjoy it. And these sort of fixtures against Spurs and stuff, they're the fixtures that you look out for when the fixtures release. At the start of the season, not your Bournemouths and your Fulhams, but this is going to be an exciting game for us, and to play them at home as well. Let's that's
it. It's fantastic. And then overall as well, I think even when you look at Burnley and Sunderland as well, we seem to be kind of holding our own in the division, which I think it's fantastic to see. Like, I'd love to see all 3 of us stay up, just to kind of give the 2 fingers, to kind of all the pundits and all the so-called top 6 channels that I've watched over the summer, saying that the 3 that have gone up have gone straight back down. The amount of Premier League table predictions that I've watched, and they've all put Leeds, Burnley and Sunderland to go straight back down. So it's good to see. It's still a long way to go.
It's easy for them to do so as well.
It's easy for them to say that, but it kind of breaks that mold, doesn't it, of the last 2 years of the 3 going up, and kind of bring that bit closer together at the Championship and the Premier League, because there for a couple of seasons you could really see a massive gap and appearance. So it's good to see the 3 promoted teams holding their own, Dylan, isn't it?
Well, I actually like Sunderland. I have nothing against them at all. The Burnley kind of ragged me head a little bit, because I don't like him on Hannibal, realistically. I think that's the main reason, but I mean, I don't know about you, but I remember a few years ago watching the Netflix documentary of Sunderland, and to a certain degree I kind of felt it similar to what we kind of went through, and all the different managers. So I get it. So I have somewhat a bit of respect for them. So to see them stay up, and as you said, Darren, to give the fingers up to every single pundit and TV station and every mate of mine that keeps saying that we're going to get relegated, maybe it's just complete anger that comes out of me. It's just more like Leeds are in a good situation now. I keep saying it, it's like the sleeping giant is eventually awoken with the backing of the 49ers, the way Farke is playing at the minute. Certain players that we have got in, that bit of experience between DCL and Sean Longstaff. Obviously us preferably, but it would be nice, because I'm kind of sick and tired of this statement of the Premier League that the 3 bottom teams that go up or 3 bottom teams that go down, it's it's like a merry-go-round, and it's simply obviously down to money, let's be honest with you. And it'd be nice to just solely base it on pure raw talent and commitment and passion, as Smarty just mentioned there, as to opposed spending 120 million, 130 million on one player, thinking they're the best thing since sliced bread. Do you know that kind of way?
Yeah, no, I think you're perfectly right on that, Dylan. It's good to see. Look, it's still a long way to go, isn't it? We've international breaks to come. We've the Christmas period. It looks like a very rocky Christmas period for Leeds coming up. And now we've got Chelsea and Liverpool twice in December and stuff like that. So yeah, it's gonna come ticking and fast, Smarty. But I think overall, it's just we have to enjoy it as much as we can. We're going to get a couple of hidings away, but we also might have a couple of days in the sunshine. And as they say, every dog has their day.
And it's Christmas, and miracles and nice things happen at Christmas, But yeah, I think those sort of games where there's a cluster of, the good, the better teams, that's where we really, perform at our best. I think, we proved even under Jesse Marsh when we went to friggin' Anfield and stuck, we stuck 1-0 past them, and they'd not been beaten at Anfield for however many bloody months or seasons, dare I say.
It was something Van Dijk's record or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I
so
love that.
It can happen, and like you say, we are going in the right direction. So anything can happen.
You have to be positive.
Easy's kind of touched on it here as well. We obviously had a bit from the media, but a lot of our own fan base as well, Smart, even before we kicked the ball, we're saying we're going straight back down because of recruitment and all that sort of stuff, where we kind of got a little bit at the second season, didn't we, under Farke, when we brought in the likes of Tanaka, and they're all saying, 3.5 million, what he's going to do, and it was a very underrated window. And then we seen some of them players, really flourish. Joe Rotwell as well. Again, did we bring him in on a loan? And everyone's like, why are we bringing him on a loan? He was fantastic for us. So yeah, look, I think you kind of have to reserve judgment, don't you, until you can kind of see these players coming in. But yeah, at the moment, I think it's positive for Leeds. I think it's a lot better start than what I thought it would be. And obviously, it's just going to ramp up now as the fixtures come thick and fast. But Smarty, anything to say before we wrap it up and say goodnight to everybody?
No, absolutely not. No, I've enjoyed it. Thank you very much for having me. It's made a nice change to actually speak to people who know what they're talking about for once.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I was going to say, me.
You don't have to do a podcast with Jamie. It's been refreshing.
And Carl's delayed Wi-Fi when you ask him a question, and he's answering 3 questions later.
Honestly, what a disaster! Eh?
That's what makes it up. That's what makes it. That's
it's all fun, isn't it?
But please go check out Smarty and the lads over at Orta Know Better. Really fantastic podcast. Really do enjoy the boys. So make sure you go across there and give us a sub. And Smarty, again, thanks very much for giving up your time and being here with us. And I really, really enjoyed it. Dillo, and say before we wrap it up.
Yeah, positivity. That's the main thing. That's going.
You need to take that yourself. You need to take that.
I know, yeah.
Manifest.
Do you know what? I'd love to see Scum go down. Just would I'd pay someone. I would.
Yeah, keep Amber on there and do to be fine. Fantastic manager.
I think he does a great job.
But we leave it there, lads. Thanks very much to everyone that popped in on your Wednesday night. It really was a thoroughly enjoyable podcast. But before you leave, make sure you drop a like on the video and, of course, hit subscribe to the channel. So mind yourselves, mind each other. We'll catch you in the next one.